Dear most gracious Heavenly Father, we just come to you today to take care of the business of our people, guide and lead us as we make decisions. We give you all the praise. Thank you for the sunshine. Just thank you for the opportunity to be here, dear Lord, as we make decisions. In Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Cherokee, you do the roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Dick Lake,
Honey?
Carly Buzzard, Bill England,
Honey?
Keith Austin,
Here.
Jack Baker,
Here.
Joe Bird,
Honey?
Sean Crittenden,
Honey?
Don Garvin, Frankie Hargis,
Present.
Wanda Hatfield,
Honey.
Rex Jordan,
Here.
Curtis Snell, Janice Taylor, here, David Thornton,
Honey?
Victoria Vasquez, Amy Walkenstick, Brian Warner. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for approval of minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Reports, Marshall Lamb.
Good afternoon, council.
Hello.
I know you guys were sent an email on our NAHOSTA funds, and I'll just open that up for any questions you might have on it.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, Marcia, we didn't get to visit long. So had some today, like we talked. The constituents, the funds are frozen. So didn't get to ask you till when, you think?
I hope just another week. We've instructed the advocates to get those that are pending documents and stuff. That we don't have any control over that. That it'll be the constituents' job to get the documents back into us. But as soon as we know all the apps are in, then we'll have an idea. What we're trying to do is stretch our budget to last till the end of the year.
Right now, that's October.
Yes, October 1.
And, you know, I know, I'm not blaming you, of course, because you got a budget you deal with, but so they should know something in a week.
Mm-hmm. And then if there's enough funding that, I mean, we have staff that's paid out of the same fund, so we have to look at that too. So as soon as we get a good idea and there is funding available, we will open it back up, and you guys will be the first to know.
I'm just gonna
Okay?
tell maybe what I'm dealing with is just some deposits for like a house, and we just did the carryover. I think we're going to do that tonight.
That's for general assistance.
Right, and
That's the different program.
but so bottom line is you're short on money.
Yeah.
And I'd like to visit with you after that week, and I mean that's of course, as everybody knows, that's the basic necessity of human service. And I do.
That's where we keep people in their homes or we get them into homes.
Right, and I'm a fan of that. Of course, everybody is. So I'm gonna tell them should know something in a week. All right. Thank you.
Bill.
Marcia, did you just not ask for enough money in last budget cycle, or why are you short?
Every year, all the programs are allocated so much money out of NAHOSTA. I'm sure this can be explained better by someone else, but we're all given a task to live within our budget, and so that's what I'm trying to do, basically.
But are you over what your budget was last year?
Well, we have had such an influx of clients over the years. It's just inevitable, we're just we've got to do something to make sure we don't want to run out. We want to stretch it as much as we can. So that's all I'm trying to do, is just stretch it. Doesn't mean I won't open it up Friday. Doesn't mean It might take another couple of days after that. Like I said, you know, there's required documents because it is HUD or NAHASDA. So there's got to be documents that goes with it. And the clients are the ones that bring them in. And then we'll get them in there. But we looked at how many applications we had to process, which was a basket full. We counted them up. We looked at our budget, what's got to last. And we said we better stop it just to make sure that we have enough. And that's what we're in the process of doing now.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Sean, go ahead.
You know, I was just gonna add, and again, Marcia, you do what you can do with what money you get. But it just, now that's NAHASDA, that's federal dollars. You know, we're telling our people the federal dollars are frozen. And my mind goes back to, just like the last thing we talked about the education, marking out the 9 and putting a 6. My mind goes back to, all right, NAHASDA said no, but we've got money. It's in our Cherokee Phoenix about the economic impact. We've got money. And just because the federal government is kind of slim, the NAHASDA fund, I still believe we should go get it somewhere else. And that I strongly believe that, and I'll keep harping on it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Anybody got an extra blanket for Janice?
What?
Has anybody got an extra blanket for Janice?
Caught a cold sitting in here.
Mr. Qualls.
Getting hot. Good afternoon. Community Services is currently working on budgets like most everyone else. We're working on the 2018 budgets. We've reviewed them and submitted them back to the programs. Programs will do an update, send them back to us. And does anyone know when these 18 budgets will go to the council for approval? Is it like in next month? This month?
I would say next couple of months. Where's our buddy Jody?
What's the question?
Yes.
The budget hearings should be
August.
after in August.
Yeah.
And then approved in September.
We have a total of 37 budgets that we've been working on. There's a number of budgets that are NAHASDA, a number of budgets in the housing program. Some of the budgets are Pam Bakke, she has 2 or 3 budgets. And Dalgi even has a couple of budgets that we have to go through. But we feel pretty good about it, and everybody has been working on them, and we're getting some of the budgets back to review. With that, I guess we'll see if there's any questions, discussions.
Walking stick.
This grant we write, have you thought about doing needs assessment? I know other tribes have town hall meetings before they write their, their HUD grant? And they have these people come and they kind of express what the needs are in their area. And I think it's a good idea for us to get the input from the people that's actually the money's going to, see what those needs are. Because we set up a lot of us, we sit in our offices in suits and run a computer. Very rarely am I out. Other people, we're out in the community seeing what's going on with our folks. I think we should give them an opportunity to voice their opinion on how we should direct this, a needs assessment, an instrument. It's not nothing that Cherokee Nation's done before. Other tribes are doing it. I think it'd be a great idea to maybe throw some ideas around. Anyways, that's all I'd say. Thank Councilman.
Will you sit in the office in your suit and work on the computer?
I don't want a suit, but if there are people that do sit in their office in a suit and they don't know what's going on in the community.
And Harley?
I've a couple of questions on water. Where's Delaware Rural Water District 11? Where is that located?
That's around the leach area, Harley.
Okay, that's part of the leach area. Okay, and then I see on that consortium that's doing sampling on water wells in that Snake Creek area. Is that because we're trying to get water line in that area?
Yes, we've drilled several wells in there recently and they've been bad, and so we'd like to get a water line down in that area and hopefully some more outreach and sampling.
Very good, thank you.
Bring you up to me.
Hey, I've got a comment. Ron, you know, we just had a report from Marshall, and it was the same thing with health. The enrollment at Cherokee Nation is only going to go up. And if we're relying on the previous budget, then that's not going to work. You know, we have to look at the growth of the tribe, and you know, if we're going to rely on that previous budget year, then that's not going to work very often. So I hear it from every department, well, we made it through this month, we're working on the budget. We've been doing this for a long time, working on these budgets. You have, Marcia have, and I've seen them come through, and I've even looked at them, presented them myself from both sides. We need to take into consideration the growth of our tribe. If you guys don't, maybe you do. Let's look at the growth of our tribe as we submit those numbers. Maybe go 3%, 5%, whatever that may be. Better to ask for more than less. Decide how that might work out. Anyway, that's just a thought.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Mr. Cooper?
Good afternoon. Let's see, a couple of things I want to be sure to mention is, you know, we've been a little worried about, and we've been talking about NAHASDA funding, so might as well continue that discussion on. You know, we've been worried about what was going to happen on the federal level with current year's funding, because we hadn't had a budget yet. You know, we are glad that Congress finally done an omnibus bill for this year. Included in that omnibus is funding for the block grant for NAHASDA, and it's at the same level as last year. So it's $654 million on a national level. Just to kind of give you some background, it's not that no one ever asks for more money around NAHASDA. It is that you're very limited on what is available. The government sets what it is, and then there's a formula that works to try to figure out how to divvy that up. If you take a look at, and we have done just that, and we have included it in some written testimony. Our national organization is including it in some written testimony that's due later on the end of this month. And if you look at just like real conservative numbers, if you take what went into effect almost 20 years ago, whenever NAHASDA was first appropriated and authorized, is what it should be funded at today based on that amount of funding, but in today's dollars, should be funded at right at $1 billion, that program. So you're looking at a program being funded at $654 million that should be funded at right at $1 billion. So that's a pretty huge chunk of money that we just don't get to fund housing needs, and that's not, that affects all of us all across the country. And the bad thing is we don't know what FY18 is going to look like. We're still waiting on those numbers to be released, those dollars to come out, because the thing that we've got to do is we've got to bring to you an Indian housing plan to approve, but we have to have those numbers from the government to plug into that first. And they keep saying that we should have that sometime here in May. And then HUD says, well, hey, we'll have our formula center in Denver work overtime if they have to get you estimates on what those dollar amounts for your individual tribes will be. And we hope that we can have those to you by the first week of June. But on the federal level, they've got to release that, what's called the President's Budget Report, the PBR. So they can plug in those dollar amounts to see, hey, how's that going to affect the block grant program? And then the fight's on, because then it goes to Congress and appropriators to try to decide what they're going to fund it at. And I'll give it up to them. I mean, hey, we didn't get any more than what we got last year for FY17. I'm just happy that we wasn't getting the 13-14% cut that they were talking about. So I mean, that is one thing. One thing that, if there's anything that's good about that, that's one thing that is. That was the main thing that I wanted to mention. I do also want to, at least mention too, that there was a little blurb in the signing statement from the president in that omnibus budget that we took some issue with over in Indian housing, because it was tied down to an Indian housing item. Don't know exactly what that was all about. We've talked to several people, and they assure us that the administration will be putting out a clarifying statement, because that was not their intent to cause some mass confusion and mass worries in Indian country with that language. But just to kind of give you an idea, we keep an eye on a lot of different things, because every little thing could potentially mean something big whenever it comes to funding levels and things of that nature. Those are the main things that I do want to mention. I think it's been a little while since I've talked about HUD-VASH. Just to kind of give you a brief update on the HUD-VASH program. That's the Homeless Veterans Program. We've got two individuals that have housing on that program. We've got another 4 who have vouchers that we're trying to get placed in housing. Another 2 referrals just came over from the VA, and then another 1 that we referred over that the VA says, hey, we should have this back to you here shortly. That's pending. So if I can count right, if I had enough fingers, I think that comes up to 7. So it is slowly getting to the 25 slots that we have. It is a tough deal, because it's not just us going out and approving someone. The VA has to actually approve them over on that side of it, and then once they can approve them for assistance through the VA, then we can help them, and we assist them with the housing piece of it. So we're working on we've already got some families that are assisted, and we're working on assisting a few more. So that's a really good deal for us. Other than that, I think that's the main things I wanted to mention today. And you have our report. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take those.
Okay, any questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Sean.
Gary, I've emailed you a couple of the Chewy. They had another flood, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And there's three, I believe, that real simply just said that Cherokee Nation can't do anything this time if they've already been helped. What are we offering them? Are we offering some kind of?
I'll have to go back and look. I can only, if you want to get with me afterwards on the names, I can go back and check. I can only recall one name, one specific name that you emailed me on earlier today, or just right before I came out here. I'm not aware of 2 other ones, but I'll be happy to
But we're
check.
not just cut and dried saying,
Well,
sorry, we
it,
helped you again, I helped you one time, we can't help you again.
it really depends. I mean, there's lots of things that would go into that. What type of assistance and how much assistance they received before would be a big factor. And that's something that comes into play a lot of times because especially whenever it comes to NAHASTA, under NAHASTA guidelines, is once we provide housing assistance to someone, we have assisted them under the NAHASTA program until that useful life agreement runs out, which is generally, on average, 10 years. It kind of depends on what it is. It could be less, it could be more, but just kind of as a generality, it runs for, on average, 10 years. So once assistance is provided, then it may be 10 years or 12 years, or there's usually a period of time before we can go back out and spend additional federal funds on a particular unit.
Let me ask you this, the last time it happened, I remember a lot of us were down there, different families, but when we helped them, did we offer them some sort of flood insurance?
Now, that I don't know. We don't offer any type of flood insurance.
Because I have, well, you know, the elder I'm talking about that lives on a hill, that before we can help them, we're
When we're-
saying you have to get flood insurance.
Yeah, on that
So
one.
What about these ones that really need
That
it?
needed it. I mean, and that's another thing too, is, you know, they have to carry, or in most cases, they're supposed to carry flood insurance. Now, it's a
We
little
helped
bit,
these others, which I'm glad we did.
yeah, and I'd have to go back and look on each individual one, because that was before my time. That was right before it transferred over to us. I think it happened in December 15.
Okay.
And so most of that work was already completed before it came over to Housing Authority. So I mean, I would have to go back and look at each individual ones. I'm familiar with the one that you'd emailed me on here just a couple hours ago.
And just real quick, Gary, this has been on my mind. I'm not trying to throw this out there to muddy up any kind of water. It's been on my mind. Would you give me, I'm sure everybody else knows, but just so I can grasp, I'd say 95%. Well, maybe 90 with some human services, but throw it in there. Our housing costs, and it's about housing. But give me an overview about just the agency, how that works, and just how a council position and your relationship works, and just I've had someone in admin tell me before when we were talking about something, well, I ain't even Gary's boss. And then, of course, you know, that means what role does a council, because the people, they believe that I actually have some say-so. And they actually believe that, and I've been told different, and since it's our phones that's ringing, if we don't have much say-so, the people ought to be able to know that, and just.
And I'm not exactly sure exactly what you're asking, but I think I can figure out enough of it to kind of tell you. No one really has any say. So whenever it comes to our NAHASTA funds, our federal grant funds, which funds about 99% of what is done in housing, there are federal rules, federal law, federal statutes, federal guidelines, and federal regulations that have to be followed, including an applications process. And that's why you'll hear me say time and time again is we've received an application on someone, on, for instance, rehab assistance. On average, it could be 5 years. Sometimes it might be more. Sometimes it might be less. And that is, every application we get for some type of housing assistance, the first thing that's done is it's stamped in with date and the time that we get it in our hand.
Right, and the people that come to the different meetings, the people, they think, oh, Sean can do something.
Yeah,
but tell me,
and the reason
it's really a state.
No, it's federal.
Federal.
Agency. I mean, it is. These are rules that have to be in place in order for us to get NAHASTA assistance. In order for us to get the nearly $30 million of the Indian Housing Block Grant, that you most commonly hear as NAHASDA. What it's actually is this Indian Housing Block Grant. So what the IHBG is, that nearly $30 million, is you have to have these guidelines in place. We give preference, for instance, for, like whether it's rental assistance or whether it's housing rehab or something like that, elderly, handicapped, or disabled. So what happens is elderly, handicapped, and disabled go up to the top of the waiting list by the date and time of application.
How about if someone
So if
don't
you,
agree with, the time frame maybe?
the time frame with what?
Getting something done, work on their house or new construction,
So
replacement homes. Now who-
like
who's-
the time frame whenever someone says, oh well,
Right, and where it's not written
for
out
instance,
in
I said on average it's 5 years.
18 months or something.
Yeah, and the whole thing with that is all of that depends on how much money comes in. For instance, a replacement home, I can get pretty close to telling you where someone is on the waiting list, what it's like, but I'm not a fortune teller. So for instance, I know under the Indian Housing Plan that we put forward that we have money to build on average 14 replacement homes per year. I can tell you that only up to this year. I have to take into account that hopefully we get funded next year and the year after and then the year after, that same amount, that same number of homes. And whenever I say, okay, for instance, they've got 2 years or 2.5 years or 3 years or whatever it is, on average, I'm just taking a wild guess at it.
About tribal dollars, you get tribal dollars, right?
Only a small amount. I think we get some tribal dollars for rehab emergency. I want to say it was $300 and something thousand last year, and I think that there might have been $100 in the budget mod for carryover that y'all
Who makes
had
that
approved.
call on how to spend the tribal dollars?
The tribe, whenever they send it over, whenever the budget's passed and it's in there as far as this, in the budget narrative, it has in there how the dollars are going to be spent. And that's what I look, whenever we try to determine how those dollars are going to be spent, that's what we look at, because that's what tells us in order to spend this amount of money, you have to follow, this is how it's going to be spent. And I don't have one of those in front of me to even see, but each one of those budgets has a budget narrative that explains what that money's going to be used for. And it's going to be allocated.
Right, I just,
Speaking of budget cuts.
sometimes it seems like we have no say-so in the process, but the people expect us to. And I'm a little less unclear, but I'm still.
Yeah, now, and I'm not,
Because
and I'd be happy to visit, on if it's a specific thing or something, but based on what you're telling me, all I can do is kind of take a guess at what we're talking about. But it is, and it's not scientific. For instance, rental assistance, whenever we, rental assistance, in order to move people in, people's got to move out. We have X number of slots available, so in order to move people in, someone's got to move out. Sometimes there might be 10 move in or move out. Sometimes there might be 30, and sometimes there might be less. So there is no hard, steady number of this is how long it's going to take or what's going to happen, because we don't know. We don't know when someone's going to move out or when someone's not. That's the same way with our apartments. I'm sure any of you that are landlords probably know, you could have someone, you could be at 90% occupancy one day, and overnight you have a slew of people just get up and move out for one reason or another.
in that case, there's a landlord, though, that people know, they know who can make a difference. I think a lot of times they don't know in this situation. And, the landlord, he solves all the problems, hears all the complaints, and he's the one that can fix them. In this case,
I think we're way offline now, but okay.
Well, I'll be online, all right, on them phone calls, but I just need to get clear on, these people expect me to get something done, and if it's just a federal thing that I can't touch,
And
the people need to
Yeah.
know that.
and like I said, I mean,
It's got Cherokee Nation stamped all over it.
for instance, and I don't know, all I know is, for instance, housing rehab. The housing rehab, and I would have to go back and look, but I think, do you remember for sure, is it around $387,000 maybe? That was in the rehab emergency pot? If you look at that and you look at the amount that goes to like housing rehab or replacement homes, you're talking about roughly, without those numbers in front of me, I would have to venture to guess probably somewhere between $6 and $9 million. So what would that be, about 1%? Roughly? Half a
Thank you.
percent?
It's been on my mind. Thank you.
Yeah. So about 0.5% or 1% right now, I mean, off of the money that comes over is what we have some control over. The 99% is what we don't. That's federal.
Thank you.
Does that help?
You're welcome. Thank you. Curtis?
Gary, I need to talk with you after a while.
Okay.
Either I can't wait till,
As soon as we get done here, I'll be happy to
I'll
visit.
be great.
I'll stick around just for you.
I got a simple little problem.
Hey, I like those.
All right, anyone else? Thank you, Gary.
Thank y'all.
Michael Lynn?
Good afternoon. I'll make this brief. I know we're running a little short of time here. If I could, I'll just run through some of our more active projects. The 10 Killer School Road is finally starting to finish up. We're in the process of developing the final punch list and working towards the end on that. We expect a final inspection to be scheduled pretty soon on that project. Leach Kenwood Road in Delaware County is, their contractor's working on that. It is behind schedule. They have completed the first 3 miles with an overlay. They're working on the remaining 9 miles. There's
Hey, Michael?
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
Willie, catch Hicks, would you?
carry on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. They're on the remaining 9 miles. They're working on box structures, and they will be completing an overlay on that section as well. Dwight Mission Road in Sequoia County, we will be holding a bid opening on that on the 18th this week. I believe that's this week. So we'll be getting that out to award made on that and under construction here soon. Also, Moonshine Road in Sequoia County, we're working to get the utilities relocated on that project. We estimate that to be bid out in June, barring no unforeseen items, with construction being in August. Honey Hill Road, which is the last or the remaining portion of that project that we built several years back, we're finally able to begin construction on that due to some right-of-way issues we ran into. That project did test positive for an endangered bat species. We're working to relocate some utilities in there, but due to the bat issue, we won't be able to bid that out until September because we can't have any tree clearing before November 15th. So we'll bid that out in September, anticipating construction starting in mid-November. A couple more. Holbert Lost City, or Grace Hudlin Road, that is, as it's known locally, we're just approximately 75% complete in right-of-way acquisition on that project. We're working feverishly to try to get the remaining parcels secured so that we can begin the utility relocation and construction on that project. And lastly, I want to mention Ross Street, located here within the city of Tahlequah, that leads up to the new Hastings Clinic expansion. We have been working very, very diligently on that project to try to coincide with the Hastings expansion construction, so that we can have a good, wide, safe road for the clients to travel into on that when that clinic is completed. So we've been working real closely with the health staff, contractors, and those that are working on that clinic expansion. Mr. Chair, that is my report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
You bet. Thank you. Harlan?
Michael, where are we on that industrial park over there at Cherokee? Clinic and that part, is it ready to bid out?
We're working with the county commissioner to construct that. The county has been issued the PO to begin the work. I talked to him last week with all of the flooding and everything that they've had up there. It's on his to-do list. I know he's got some projects that he's trying to work on for youth counselors, as well as this one. Anna and I spoke about this just before the meeting started. We're going to go ahead and start putting the overhead lighting in, and then finish the road. He anticipates having it completed by September. That was a deadline Anna would like to see it done by. So hopefully by September this summer.
What about the Piney Bridge? Have they approached you anything on that?
When I talked to him about this, we talked about the Piney Bridge. We're scheduled this week to go up there and take a look at that project with him. So haven't really talked about any funding or anything, but he is looking at alternatives to get it back open.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else? 75 highway turnoff, it may be time to go try to get with ODOT. See whatever it is they're planning and what else
I will
might speed that up.
I will try to. That project kind of fell to the back burner, but I'll sort of spark that back up, see what we can find out.
Well, it may be time just to hit them and see what's up.
We'll do it.
And thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We want to proclaim Willard Mounts one fast man. I'm telling you. Good job, Willard. Anna Knight.
Good afternoon. You have a copy of my report. The only thing I have to add to it was we finished the volunteer income tax assistance, and so the final numbers are just a little bit higher than what they are in the report with 1,622 families. We helped them file their taxes free of charge, and they captured $2.4 million in tax returns. So the other only thing I have to add is that we're scheduling a home buyers fair in Roland and one in Catoosa. We're working on the dates in those areas. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
When you get those dates up, could you send them to Gail and she could send them to us?
Sure will.
Home buyers, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, good report, thank you. Nikki Baker. Afternoon.
Okay, let's see here. In Indian Child Welfare, it is Foster Care Awareness Month, and so tomorrow we are having a foster care awareness walk at the One Fire Field. If anyone wants to bring a slightly used or new duffel bag, we use those for our children to make sure that they never have to be moved in trash bags. We have a site visit tomorrow by our Title IV-E reviewers that will happen most of the day, and that is based off of our planning grant. It was a 2-year planning grant, and we're almost to completion, and once we complete that, Indian Child Welfare will be able to pay our own foster homes, a step towards sovereignty, and not have to go through the state. So we're really excited about that and look forward to meeting with them tomorrow. We have 2 new judges that are we're working to learn. Judges have different styles, different ways they like their reports, and we've got 2 new ones, so kind of some growing pains for Indian Child Welfare. Good, we're fine with that. Of course, Judge Fight is deeply missed. But we're just going right on and learning what these new judges want and expect out of us. We are working on a mini reorg to add just a few new positions that we've already been allowed by our grants. And as Councilman Byrd mentioned, we do continue to grow as a tribe, so every once in a while we'll have to add a worker or 2 to keep up with the amount of families that we're assisting. So that's something we're working on, and basically, that is kind of the end of my report for this month.
Good, thank you. Any questions? Janice?
And Nikki, we had talked a couple months ago about the possibility of adding kind of a layer of training for the CASA workers that are working with Indian, children that would fall under ICWA.
Okay.
Has there been any progress made or any steps towards that?
Tammy Haley is actually my manager who runs my tribal court unit, and she actually does a lot of the training for CASA. We have our own CASA volunteers that come to tribal court, and so I know that area is covered quite well because it's repeat folks that just concentrate on tribal court. Are you talking about the other courts within the 14 county jurisdiction, or are you talking about just our tribal children?
Well, it'd probably be the other courts across the jurisdiction that are not as familiar. Some of their cases may be ICWA cases, some of their cases may be just traditional foster home type things. And
Sure.
I think the families that they are assisting and the things that they're telling the families are not always consistent with ICWA laws.
Sure.
And then the families have a different expectation
Right.
when it's just a regular child that doesn't fall under ICWA, and then they get a child that does fall under ICWA, and I just think it would be helpful to not get the, just to be sure that those CASA workers understand the reality.
Sure.
When they're trying to assist an ICWA child.
Sure. I'll follow up on that and
Okay.
check, and that shouldn't be a problem, just that we reach out to their head person and just say, hey, we'd like to send someone at your next training for volunteers, and I imagine they'd welcome us
Even
because
just
it's a
an hour
volunteer program.
presentation
Sure.
to kind of explain how things may be different.
Sure, I'll
I'd
follow up on
appreciate
that and
that.
let you
Thank
know.
you, Nikki.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Nikki, how did we do Friday on our fundraiser?
For One Fire, fantastic. We're looking around an $8,000 profit right now. I've got my girls trying to tally up everything, but that's really great because those funds go to help where our grant can't. It's real specific on you can help do this, but you can't help do that. So those funds come in handy when we have someone that falls out. So we're
Well, you
really
and your
happy.
staff be commended for being out there. And I saw some of your volunteers at Reese's over the weekend for CASA, so you guys are working hard.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. I'll let them know that you complimented them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
There is a map, and I know you, could you explain, what are these, SCAPS, G?
Sure.
Could you explain those to me?
Yeah, those are just our abbreviations for state caps. That's going to be your 14 county jurisdiction caseworkers. Then you've got GPA, that's guardianship and adoption. And then out-of-district caps. So the O stands for out-of-district. The T caps is for tribal caps. Those are solely our tribal kids that are in custody. We usually stay around 80 or so. It'll go up and down a little. And then CPS is Child Protective Services. So that's the investigators that go out to see if there's deprived children and do an investigation whenever a child is first referred to our agency as that they could be deprived. We go out and investigate and make a determination.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Let's see, old business. Let's do. Not here.
Security, would you get Counselor walking stick?
You don't have custody, take him to jail.
Would you tase him before you bring him in?
Tease him, then tase him. Courtney, read him his rights.
It's probably about the building.
Keeps getting a snack.
I second it. You make a motion, I say it.
Yeah.
Counselor, we're on old business.
Clothing vouchers.
Clothing vouchers,
Yes.
I have not got a word from Lacey Horn on this clothing voucher. What she was waiting on was with Bank of Oklahoma. They were they're gonna see if they could get a credit card put together and put all the line items on there, like coats and clothes or whatever, be specific to what the purchase on this credit card at a reduced cost because of all the other business we do with them. But she has not given me a word yet on where they're at in that conversation, if they can do that or not. Marcia, have you heard anything of what's going on?
Are your wishes?
I need to table this, and I'll get with Lacey and see if she's heard anything on this.
Okay.
Second.
Have a table and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Table's going next month. No new business. Any announcements? Next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, June 19th, 4 p.m. I'd like to ask for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.